Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the practice of being human. Today, I want to share a story. A few months ago, a young woman sat across from me on FaceTime, carrying something that many of us know intimately, and it was fear. So much fear. Not the dramatic kind, not emergency fear, but the quieter kind, and the kind that whispers, everyone else seems to know what they're doing. I am so behind. I should have this all figured out by now. Something must be wrong with me. And this young woman who was approaching graduation, she didn't have a job lined up at this point, no clear next step. And she was facing a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And here's the thing. If you spend any time with young adults recently, you know the story. The circumstances may be different, but the underlying fear is often the same. And here's the thing about uncertainty that a lot of young adults, what they make it mean is inadequacy. Something is wrong, it's a problem. And sometimes parents are making it mean this as well, which only compounds the struggle. And the fear of not knowing tends to mean failure. The fear that if people knew exactly how scared we really were, that they might kind of think less of us. And so many young adults do what this young woman initially did. They carry it alone. They don't let us in. They shut down. They isolate. They go inward, but not in the way that is nourishing. They go inward in a way where they are in an echo chamber. And that echo chamber is telling them all the things that are wrong, and especially that they are wrong. So what became clear over time was that the job wasn't actually the problem. The graduation wasn't the problem. The future wasn't the problem. Her suffering came from what she was making it all mean. I'm behind. I'm failing. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with this picture. I should know by now. If I don't have this figured out, something is wrong with me. As I've said countless times, it is rarely the circumstance that creates our suffering. And in fact, we can choose what we make things mean in a way that a circumstance can create suffering by what we're making it mean. And sometimes we choose that suffering. But I believe there's also unnecessary suffering. And this kind of unnecessary suffering is what I want to address, because it's the story we attach to the circumstance that is so incredibly powerful. And this story eventually pushed her nervous system into survival mode. She couldn't see anything outside of where she was. Head down, blinders on, isolation, withdrawal, numbing, drinking, checking out, trying to soften the edges, just trying not to feel or face her fear, and trying to manage the uncertainty by avoiding it, which is such a human thing to do. Here's the thing about the story that I love. People noticed. Her roommates noticed. Friends noticed. Parents were then notified. Conversations happened. Tears happened. Truth happened. And what I watched unfold wasn't a family crisis. What I saw, and I continue to see, is this family becoming a team. Not team perfect, not team we've got this all figured out, but team their young adult, team their child. And here's what strikes me now, looking back. The greatest gift wasn't that everyone rushed in to fix it. The greatest gift was that everyone stayed. No one checked out. Everyone checked in. And there was a lot of fear in the room, so to speak. So I checked in with her a few weeks back, after all of this unfolded. And what encouraged me most was not that uncertainty had disappeared, because it hadn't, right? There was still a committee reviewing her thesis at this point in time. There were still questions about the future. There were still loose ends. But what stood out was that she was relating to uncertainty differently. And I say this because that is core to being able to shift this experience that she was having. That's growth, like tremendous growth. She couldn't eliminate the uncertainty, and it wasn't about that, but it was learning how to live alongside it and almost kind of in it, because uncertainty isn't going anywhere. Life is uncertainty. We talked about this in our last episode. What she's learning, and what so many college seniors are learning, will now serve her far longer than any job offer could. So one of the biggest themes that emerged in our work was recognizing how often she has felt responsible for holding things together. She's the oldest sibling in her family, and she learned early to be very capable, dependable, thoughtful, responsible. And of course, we can all say, well, those are some lovely qualities to have. But they come with a shadow side, because sometimes the oldest child becomes the helper, the fixer, the little mini parent, the manager, and the one who carries more than belongs to them. This is the one who struggles to ask for help because they've spent their entire lives being the helper. To ask for help is a weakness. It's a problem. They lose their identity. If their identity has been always the one who's kind of got it figured out and has it together, imagine when you aren't that one. This young lady felt it was her responsibility for everyone else's experience, and that included her own, right? Her struggle meant that, oh my gosh, I don't want anyone to know this, especially mom and dad. Because if they were to know this, what would that mean? Would I still belong? Would I still be loved? Would I be okay? Right? Eventually, that becomes so exhausting. So for this young woman, what we've been practicing is deceptively simple, but it's so powerful. The tool of the pause. Pause, breathe, notice, ask. What is actually mine to do here? What is the next right step in light of all the things? And remembering, in light of all of this, if we need help with that next step, we seek it, but we take a step, we take action. And remember in all of this that not every problem is yours to solve, not every emotion is yours to manage, and not every situation requires your intervention. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is allow other people to carry what belongs to them. And this was true for the parents with this young woman. The most courageous thing that they allowed their daughter to do is to carry what belonged to her, and they carried what they could carry and what felt true for them to carry. But they recognized that this was her journey. This was her walk. How could they support and love her, but not make the walk for her? So then came another challenge. There was a thesis mistake and an academic review, a committee process. And what did that bring? But more uncertainty, more fear. And here is what fascinated me in all of this. The old version of this young woman would have hidden. She would have avoided. She would have shut down. She would have spiraled. But what did she do? She showed up. She met with her deans. She wrote letters. She gathered documents. She asked questions. She took accountability. She told the truth. She involved her parents. She stayed engaged. She didn't give anything to them. She just wanted their support. And that, my friends, builds resilience. It's not perfection, but resilience. And there is a difference. Perhaps the most important lesson for this young woman wasn't about accountability or school or jobs or adulthood. It was about love. One thing I recently shared with her parents was this. She told the truth. You had feelings. There was uncertainty, and love remained. Support remained. Connection remained. And that experience for this young woman is helping her learn something many people spend a lifetime trying to learn. Relationships can hold hard things without falling apart. Let me say that again. Relationships can hold hard things without falling apart. And in fact, they can deepen, they can grow. There's expansion that happens. So many of us don't give it that opportunity because we grow up believing that if people see the truth, they leave. If people see the mistake, they withdraw. If people see the struggle, they'll love us less. But what this young woman experienced because her parents showed up as they did was something very different. Truth, fear, disappointment, uncertainty, and within all of those feelings, and all of that experience, love. Love remained. So to the parents listening, I want to honor your journey too. Because while young adults are learning how to navigate uncertainty, we parents are learning how to stay present without rescuing, without freaking out, because we are carrying fear too, and we are lying awake at night as well. And we're wondering if we're doing enough. But what struck me most about these parents was their steadiness, not perfection, steadiness. They allowed themselves to have feelings. They had each other to process. They asked questions. They held boundaries. But they stayed on their daughter's team. And that matters more than they may ever fully know. But here's the thing about children, even adult children. They borrow our nervous systems. And they borrow our belief in them until they learn to believe in themselves. And this young woman needed both. She needed sturdy, steady, regulated nervous systems. She needed real, she needed honest, but she also needed their belief in her that she wasn't quite sure she had in herself. Not quite yet. And one of the things that she and I talk about often in our coaching calls now is this. There's a difference between making a mistake and becoming the mistake. Accountability, it matters. Ownership matters. Repair matters. But shame is optional. It's not required. Sometimes it's important that we feel some shame. That's a very human emotion. And sometimes when we have misstepped in a way that absolutely does not align with who we want to be, then yes, sometimes we're going to feel a little bit of shame. But then that shame, I hope, is met with curiosity and compassion and repair and a next step, a consideration of, okay, what makes sense here in light of all the things? How do I take ownership of this? And how do I keep moving forward? You can own what is yours without turning against yourself. You can take responsibility without deciding you're the problem. And you can learn without condemning yourself. And perhaps I think that is one of the greatest skills any of us can learn. So here's the thing. If you're a young adult listening today and you're in a rough patch, because it happens, here are my offerings. Tell the truth, ask for help, stay connected, take the walk, put your hand on your heart, notice your feet, take the next step, the next loving step, not the next 10, just the next one. And here's my offering to you parents out there. Your steadiness, it matters. Your regulation matters. Your presence matters. Your willingness to stay connected matters more than you have any idea. You do not need all the answers. You do not need to rescue. You do not need to have it all figured out. There's no removing all the obstacles, but sometimes your greatest gift is simply remaining. Because what this young woman taught me, and I think what she taught her parents, is that life will always bring uncertainty. Life's going to bring mistakes. We're going to mess up. We're going to misstep, sometimes bigger than others. Life's going to disappoint us. We're going to disappoint ourselves. We're going to bring disappointment. Life is going to bring it. Life's going to bring fear. But when honesty is present, when support is available, when people stay, when love remains, human beings are capable of extraordinary growth. And maybe, just maybe, that's what becoming an adult really is. Not learning how to avoid hard things, but learning that we can move through hard things honestly, courageously, and together. One breath, one choice, one step at a time. That's all for this week. I look forward to seeing you all next week. So much love.